Good evening and welcome back to Capitol Time, a statewide look at politics. I'm Tim Boyum. Before the break, we showed you the first part of my interview with House Speaker and Cleveland County Republican Tim Moore. Next, we talk about social issues and recording jobs, but we start with timing on the 2016 presidential primary.
We will come down to a primary in March. The exact date is being discussed right now, so I don't want to say what I think the date will be, but I think it'll be a date that both the House and the Senate can agree upon. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that North Carolina is a player in the presidential primary elections, which we clearly will be. We're one of the largest states that'll be going early now. You know, the reason we changed it was for years, North Carolina having a primary in May, by the time the presidential primaries came around, it was done, and we weren't a factor. So there's been a difference of opinion about how soon it should be. But any date you pick in March makes us very much a key player, particularly with our population. And we want to make sure that North Carolina has its full delegate count at both conventions, frankly.
Randomly changing topics totally. Why did you support the magistrate bill but not the RFRA bill? What was the difference with those two bills of why you thought one should move forward and not the other?
They're very different bills. I know those who have, both some supporters and some opponents have tried to confuse the two bills, but they are very different. Senate Bill 2 has to do with the right of protecting the conscience of a judicial official. That's something that has been long-standing jurisprudence in this state. For example, if a Superior Court judge has strong beliefs where he is just morally opposed to the death penalty, that judge does not hear death penalty cases, because should the jury hand down a decision, he would be in a position where he could not hand down that judgment. So you make accommodation and you have other judges hear the cases, and those judges don't hear capital murder cases, and you go on. Well, that's what this bill basically calls for on magistrates, is if someone has some sort of strongly held religious belief, that they don't be compelled to perform that ceremony. That's all it does. And I think it's unfortunate that it has been blown up into more than really it is. It's about protecting the right of that conscience. And it's just fundamental fairness. I think I heard a 12-year-old say it well. Said, why would we make somebody do something they don't want to do? And that's what it comes down to. So I think it's good that we passed that bill. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act bill, in my opinion, really isn't necessary. Our Constitution already provides for that. And the more that I read what our Constitution already says, as opposed to what this statute does, I frankly think our Constitution trumps it. And I think our Constitution is very clear that government cannot compel an individual to undertake any kind of action that is against what that person holds as their sincerely held religious beliefs.
I know you heard a lot from businesses on RFRA. Did you hear from businesses on SB 2 at all?
No.
You didn't?
No, we heard from businesses on the RFRA. I heard from a lot of folks on RFRA. I met with folks who supported RFRA, who opposed RFRA, and at the end of the day, we polled the caucus and we talked to a number of folks and decided that that we really didn't need to proceed with that bill. But as far as Senate Bill 2, no, I really didn't hear from anyone in the business community on that, because I think those in business were worried about RFRA because of what effect it may have on their businesses. But really, Senate Bill 2 is a very narrow scope. It only applies to magistrates being compelled to do that ceremony. And the way the statute's written is, in the districts where that's the case, there has to be someone available to perform those ceremonies for folks that come in. So there won't be a situation where folks are denied or folks are turned away. There has to be someone available to provide that service.
You mentioned about Volvo when that happened, that even if we had a House bill with all the incentives, that wouldn't happen anyway. So what do we need to change to get a Volvo, or do we need a Volvo? I know it sounds strange, but some people have said we don't need to be chasing all these car plants.
I think it's a mixed approach. I think we should certainly go after the large auto manufacturers, because not only the number of jobs that are directly in that plant, but the jobs and the companies that spring up around them. I live just up the road from BMW down in Greer, and I've seen the number of companies and suppliers that have sprung up, and it's amazing to see the transformation of Greenville when you go to Greenville or Spartanburg, for that matter. So I don't need theory to prove to me the benefits of what having an auto manufacturer would do. Now, we obviously were disappointed when we did not get Volvo, but there are many other car companies out there. There are companies that are looking at North Carolina, And I think the way that we do this is a mixed approach. I think we have to certainly look at the incentives. Incentives are a part of the game, whether we like them or not. Making sure our tax policy is the best. And really, the way we've changed the tax policy, Tim, our tax policy is some of the best in the country when it comes to these auto plants and any manufacturer. And then we need to make sure that we've got infrastructure in place. That's something we believe in investing in. Good roads, good ports, good railroad, all of that tied in together. The interesting thing about the auto plants is that you land, some people call it whale, like landing the whale. And you want to get that one big plant, and we need to do that. But the success story that isn't talked about are the number of businesses that we're getting every day with 50 or less employees, small businesses that are employing folks. So you get 10 small businesses employing 500 people, that's significant. That's as much as some of these larger companies that come along. So it's all relative. We're having great success there. So what we need to make sure that we do is that we continue to invest in what we're doing to bring in the businesses we are getting, and of course have the tools in place to land the large manufacturers.